Going to call the meeting of the Ramsey County Board of Commissioners of March 8th to order. We'll begin with the roll call, please.
Carter.
Here.
Fretham.
Here.
McDonough.
Here.
McGuire.
Here.
Ortega.
Aye.
Reinhardt.
Here.
And Maris Castillo.
Here. Now we'll turn to Commissioner Reinhardt for our Pledge of Allegiance and land acknowledgement while the rest of us go on mute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And Madam Chair, I will now read the land acknowledgement statement. Every community owes its existence and vitality to generations from around the world who contributed their hopes, dreams, and energy to making the history that led to this moment. Some were brought here against their will. Some were drawn to leave their distant homes in hope of a better life. And some have lived on this land since time immemorial. Truth and acknowledgement are critical to building mutual respect and connection across all barriers of heritage and difference. We are standing on the ancestral lands of the Dakota people. We want to acknowledge the Ojibwe, the Ho-Chunk, and the other nations of people who also called this place home. We pay respects to their elders, past and present. Please take a moment to consider the treaties made by the tribal nations that entitle non-Native people to live and work on traditional Native lands. Consider the many legacies of violence, displacement, migration, and settlement that bring us together here today. And please join us in uncovering such truths at any and all public events. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Reinhardt. I have the agenda of March 8th, 2022 presented before you for approval. Is there a motion to approve?
Move approval.
Thank you.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the agenda? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Reinhardt.
Aye.
Carter.
Aye.
Fretham.
Aye.
McDonough.
Aye.
McGuire.
Aye.
Ortega.
Aye.
And Maris Castillo.
Aye. We have the minutes from March 1st, 2022 presented for approval. Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Madam Chair, you froze a little bit there.
She's still frozen.
Madam Chair, as she sorts that out as Vice Chair, I would call for a vote on the motion.
Okay. Reinhardt.
Aye.
Carter.
Aye.
Fretham.
Aye.
McDonough.
Aye.
McGuire.
Aye.
Ortega.
Aye.
And Maris Castillo.
All right. I think she's reconnecting here. I think we could give her a minute here to see if she can get back on quickly.
Okay.
If not, then we can just move forward. I know how that feels. I think we all do. You know, I think we could, Brian, we could move into the COVID update here as she's sorting out her connections there. So Ryan, you want to kick off the COVID update, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. Good morning. My only brief update as we get kicked off, you would have all received the workplace alert last week. Phase 1, return to office. The date was formally announced to start on March 21st for employees who have been in the flex work environment and are coming back. A lot of planning continues. And with that, I also introduce to you the chair of the board with a good internet connection here. And while she settles in, I will go to Health Protection Manager Laura Anderson to kick us off.
Thank you, County Manager O'Connor, Chair Manas Castillo, Board. We are happy to be here today in lieu of our director, Sarah Hawley, to provide you all with a COVID update. I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge that this past Sunday marked the 2-year anniversary of our first COVID-19 case in Ramsey County. Our planning chief reminded me of this fact. At that time, myself and an epidemiologist actually drove out to deliver some essential services. So glad not to be in that place, and grateful for where we are now. As we noted last week, the CDC launched new COVID-19 community levels to monitor the number of cases in communities across the country and the burden that COVID-19 is placing on our local healthcare systems. This approach aims to minimize the impact that COVID-19 has on our health, our healthcare systems, and our general society, while also focusing efforts on those who remain most at risk. As of today, Ramsey County's community level remains low. While our community level is low, the CDC recommends that all of us stay up to date on our COVID vaccines. This means getting that booster if you haven't already done so, and getting tested when you have symptoms or have a known exposure to someone with COVID-19. We really want all of us to do our part to reduce the spread of COVID-19. So that means staying home when you're sick, wearing that mask when you have been exposed, or potentially when you are traveling or in larger congregate settings. We also recommend that you continue to follow the CDC's recommendations for isolation and quarantine. And I just want to reiterate again the importance of getting vaccinated and staying up to date on boosters. We know that 81% of Ramsey County residents who are eligible for vaccine have chosen to receive at least 1 dose of the COVID-19 vaccine. What that also means is that approximately 75% of our population has had 1 dose and 25% has not. This includes all of those kiddos under the age of 5. We continue to provide boosters as well as second doses, first doses at our COVID clinics, even if you got your first dose somewhere else. We have seen a decline in demand at our COVID clinics. Over the past week, we actually administered about 125 doses at clinics across Ramsey County. This is not unusual. We're seeing the same trends across the metro and frankly, the state as a whole. We look forward to being able to provide doses to kiddos under 5 later this spring, after the FDA approves those decisions. This week, we intend to administer around 200 doses of vaccine. We really think it's going to be important for us to focus our efforts now around improving vaccine confidence, integrating our efforts along with our trusted messenger group, doing our part to increase uptake in areas of our community where we know there continues to be lower rates of vaccination. I would also just like to mention the availability of tests. Be sure and get tested if you know you've been exposed or are feeling symptomatic. The state continues to run a number of community testing sites, including one at Roy Wilkins Auditorium. And again, this past weekend, our partners at the federal level announced a new rollout of free rapid antigen tests available through covidtest.org. So if you did go ahead and order your 4 free tests last month, you can order an additional 4 starting, I believe, 2 days ago. So make sure you order those tests and share them with others in our community. I'm going to go ahead and pass the mic now to my colleague, Dr. Ogawa, for a little bit more information. Thank you, guys.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, nice to be back in here. I am going to speak a little bit more about the trusted messengers that Laura mentioned. So beginning March 7th, 2022 through June 30th, Ramsey County has awarded 8 community partner contracts to groups, specifically with ties to those communities that we are working towards connecting with more around COVID vaccines. Those 8 are African Network for Development Incorporation, Dayton's Bluff Community Council, Greater East Side Community Council, HACER, Restorations for All, Run Like Harriet, Samo Relief, and the Somali Medical Association of America. The idea and the goal is to focus on reaching racially and ethnically diverse communities, including families with children 5 to 11. We know that that age group is lagging still in our vaccination efforts, and then other youth as well. Build on existing vaccination rates, specifically in underrepresented communities, such as in the 55130 zip code, 55103, and 55106. Leveraging also community strengths and trusted community networks to provide accurate and timely COVID-19 vaccine information, and specifically targeted outreach and engagement with those communities. Our hope and our goal also is to complement and enhance the existing work of public health. We've been in those communities, and now we want to expand to make sure that all of the information that we're providing is getting to as many individuals as possible, both language appropriately, cultural appropriately, and then answering those questions that are still plaguing some individuals about getting vaccines. I also thought I would take today to speak briefly about Omicron BA.2, the variant that has everybody's attention. So there's been some interesting information about BA.2 as being potentially more transmissible. The good news is that we think it's probably equivalently transmissible, although we'll know more shortly. The current vaccines offer the same level of protections as they did against BA.1. The also population studies show that having been infected with BA.1 offers very good protection against BA.2. So those are all, that's all good information about BA.2. Right now, across the US, BA.1 is about 75% of the cases. These are estimates based on CDC numbers. BA.2 is rising and is around 14% across the US. Now here in Minnesota, it's actually less than 1% still. So it's behaving similar to our other infections. It's higher on the east and the west coast, lower in the center, and we will probably see those percentages rising slowly. There was, hopefully slowly, there was a study that made the news that made a lot of people nervous about BA.2 potentially being more severe. It was an animal model study, and I talk about this carefully, and it was in hamsters. The hamsters themselves had no immunity to any COVID. So, and it showed that potentially BA.2 left more lung scarring in those hamsters. But those are in real life numbers. It seems as though BA.2 is equivalent or similar to BA.1 in terms of the severity. Again, we don't know for sure. As we see levels rise, we may see some new information and some new data, but that animal study thus far has not shown to be true in humans. So that's the little medical corner today, and I will pass it back to County Manager O'Connor.
Thanks to the public health team. Thanks, Madam Chair. We have no further update today.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Ogawa, and thank you, Director Anderson, for all your work and to put us in this place where we can be at low transmission and taking care of our community. We will turn back to our agenda and administrative items and turn to Commissioner Reinhardt.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to move the Burn Justice Assistance, I'm so used to saying Institute after Burn Justice Assistance Grant Renewal 2022 for Enhanced Adult Diversion Services. Number 4, the grant agreement from the Minnesota Board of Water and Soil Resources for well sealing implementation grant. Number 5 is the repurchase of a tax forfeited property located at 839 County Road B2 West in Roseville. Number 6 is the funding for the workforce program through the American Rescue Act plan. And I'd like to pull number 7, which is the future of the Ramsey County Care Center.
Great, thank you, Commissioner Reinhardt. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Reinhardt.
Oh, I'm sorry. Never mind. I'm ahead of myself.
Okay.
I have no discussion on this.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Reinhardt. Roll call, please.
Reinhardt,
Hi.
Carter,
Aye.
Fretham,
Aye.
McDonough,
Aye.
McGuire,
Aye.
Ortega,
Aye.
and Modis Castillo.
Aye. Thank you. We'll return to item number 7, the future of the Ramsey County Care Center. Is there a motion?
Move approval, Madam Chair.
All right, second.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second.
Madam Chair.
Yes, discussion. Commissioner Reinhardt.
Thank you. Sorry, it has been a long week. There's been a lot of tears shed here. So I will simply state where I have been and where I continue to be. I have been a proud supporter of the Ramsey County Nursing Home since before I became a commissioner. I've never had a relative residing there, but whenever I walked through those doors, it always felt like family. Since last week, we've received many heartfelt emails about the care loved ones received and gave to some of the most vulnerable people in our communities. The care center is not a so-called sacred cow. Rather, it is about sacred people, our elders. As I stated last week, the 2019 Pathway Health Report recommended changes to the care center service model, which would have made the facility sustainable. I get that it would have cost money to implement those, but I, for one, would have liked to at least known what that cost was, but that was not pursued. I also want to say that I know that we've talked about the number of people that are served there. Every individual, as we know, is valued and should thrive. And that we can do more with those funds for more people. And I do hope that we hold true to that when it comes to our senior population, because they seem to be forgotten more often than not. Therefore, I respectfully am voting against closure today. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Reinhardt. Commissioner McDonough.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to first start off with acknowledging the work that County Manager O'Connor, Deputy County Manager Hadeen, and all of the staff have done. You know, at least in the not at least in this past week, but really over the last 5 years, and really those of us that have been around a long time actually can go back to 2003 when the first real budget piece came during the Plenty administration, and the option for all options were explored at that time, and the potential for closure was actually brought up. So, you know, at least for the last 5 years, this board, our staff, and the community have worked extremely hard to explore each and every potential option. and to give every option its due weight. And every time over the last 5 years, we have landed on a spot to try to stabilize the nursing home, to position it to at least bring in the dollars to help pay for the cost. It is an enterprise fund, and that's been set up that way to do that, but also to ensure that our census numbers and that our beds are filled and utilized by the community. All those efforts really have done neither. The census numbers keep dropping, and I'll talk about that in a little bit, which really does have an impact on the ability for it to be operate as a true enterprise fund without transferring monies in every year. And you know, the issue, and I've been very closely involved in my aunt, 2 uncles, and now my mom on their journey at the end of life stages. And each one of them have chosen different options that meet their needs and their wishes, and they've been supported by our family, they've been supported by the community, they've been supported by their doctors. And none of them have chosen to be in an institution. They've all chosen to either age in place or to be in a facility such as an assisted living, where they can have the continuum that would advance as their progression advances, and then be able to support that. And so a lot of the work that's been done both federally and at the state level and even locally has really come to address the desire by so many of seniors to want to age in place, to want to stay where they raised their families, but at the same time supporting all the options available to those seniors. And we have a lot of options in our community that meet that need, and they meet that in a way that our care center just cannot meet it as being a standalone, high touch, intensive care facility without having the assisted living or even independent living, and then even the deeper memory care options available to it. So I applaud this board. I applaud the staff over the last 5 years and all of our efforts to try to come to a place that would potentially keep that as a resource for those in the community. And I also applaud our board and our staff for coming to the conclusion that there are better options for our seniors. There are ways that we can support the senior population that we haven't been able to do with the resources that we currently invest in the senior population at the care center. And there are places where there are much larger gaps for our seniors as they seek out what's right for them on their journey towards end of life. And we will be heavily engaged in that, and we need to really find where those gaps are to help support those options for folks and allow the community to be able to use its strengths where they have those strengths, and that is in the caregiving in a facility such as ours. So, you know, last week there was a lot of conversations when we had the workshop, and Ryan, I think you responded to each and every one of those with your memo that came out. And clearly the first response or first concern, not just by this board, not just by you, Ryan, not just by Kathy, but by every single person connected to the center, is how the individuals who are currently there residing in our center are treated and supported as they have to make choices with their families and loved ones about what's next. And clearly your response has validated that that is number one and point to center, that each individual will be offered support in finding those options, support in helping that transition for those options in a way that treats each one of them as an individual. There's been concerns, valid concerns, my concerns, you know, about what's next for our staff. And Ryan, in your memo, you've addressed it. Every single staff, again, it's about choices. We have some staff that will choose to stay in this industry, and they will look for other options within this industry somewhere else. And I applaud them for that. And they are passionate and they are driven by that work, and they're going to want to continue to do that. We're going to support them in that choice. There are other folks that truly want to stay with the county. They see their future with the county. They believe in our mission and want to be a part of that. And we're going to help support them, whether it's a lateral move, with the skill sets that they have now into other job opportunities within this county, whether, as you point out, the pathway program in public health to help them get retrained to be a part of this county, but the commitment again to work with each individual employee in helping them come to a decision about what's best for their future and supporting that and helping them make that decision. To working with the unions to ensure all contracts, all things that have been negotiated and a part of contracts will be adhered to and followed through as we move forward on this. So even though this may be one of the hardest things that this county has taken on in a long time, I do think that it's positioning us for the future, not just as a county, but as how we support residents first. We get a lot of criticism, and nothing that I'm saying here is intended to convince people that don't support this to change their minds. It's really to demonstrate the thoughtfulness that I personally have put into this and acknowledge the thoughtfulness and the deliberateness that Ryan and the staff have put into this and utilizing every available option and getting us every bit of information to help us make a decision on how to move forward. So, Madam Chair, with that, I support this. I don't do it in a way that brings me lots of joy, but I do it in a way that I have the confidence that I'm making a decision here that will eventually help support residents, employees in the community to best meet their needs as they age and the choices they choose as they are on their journey towards end of life. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner McDonough. I'll turn to Commissioner Carter and then Commissioner Fretham. Commissioner Carter.
Thank you very much. I simply want to thank Commissioner McDonough for the broad statement that was just made and appreciate that he's channeled the sentiments of, I know so many of us, all of us on the board, and so many of us in the community who understand and acknowledge the difficulty with which this decision for change will be met, likely by residents as well as families, as well as people in our community who have, as we have, supported the care facility for a long period of time. I know that my tenure on this board, which is nearing 2 decades, has seen the ongoing decision making and the difficulty of our desire to maintain support for the Ramsey County Care Facility. As we have made those decisions, we've continued to hold out that hope that we could satisfy the ability to optimally perform in this very, very difficult space of comprehensive continuums of residential choices for our seniors. We have found that every time we've made that decision and we've made that investment, we have been able to lift up the facility, but we have not been able to catch up to the market. Again, we want to be sure to plug gaps. And over the years, I have supported those difficult decisions to continue investing, trying to understand the extent to which the private market could satisfy the needs for care of those who are in our residential facility and who need these kinds of solutions. I am convinced that although we have butted against the trend for many years, that we have been able to see the improvement and the work in the private market to uptake the needs of these residents. And although the difficulty of our decision is clear and the difficulty with which it will be received is clear, I have confidence that we can better meet the needs of the residents that we care for so deeply by the decision to make this change, move toward closure. I too am most concerned that those who have worked so hard, our employees, are cared for in this transition, as well as those who are in our residential facility. The residents and their families are cared for. So the walk alongside them such as has been expressed and already described by Commissioner McDonough, is of utmost importance. I seconded and am endorsing this move for change and closure because I truly believe we will walk alongside those residents as well as our employees, meeting the needs to transition into those homes and into those work assignments as will best um, care for them. And so I'm seconding, I am supporting this movement for change today. And I just want those who have written letters and emails to know that we understand, we hear you, and we will be walking alongside, though making this difficult decision very potentially today, to ensure that our residents get to the places that will care for them and uplift them, that we will remain as long as we need to ensure that that happens, and that our employees are also transitioned into the areas that best meet the use of their skills and their ability to remain with us if possible, or to move into those careers that they desire. So I thank you for allowing me to share those thoughts. I want you to know we care deeply, and it is because of that that we are committed to walk alongside each and every one of you. Thank you, Chair Maris Castillo.
Thank you, Commissioner Carter. Commissioner Fretham.
Thank you, Chair Manis Castillo and Commissioners McDonough and Carter and Reinhardt for all you've said. I think as I've been reflecting on this decision, I thought a lot about my previous work at the state, where it was our job to take really tough situations and apply the law and make decisions. And this often meant that we had to decide something that would have tremendously bad impacts on people's lives. We might have to decide that they were never eligible for a program and they were going to need to pay back thousands of dollars in benefits they've received, even though we knew that they couldn't afford it. And every time that happened, it was the right decision, but I hated it. And I wish I could change it. I wish I could go change the law so we could apply it differently. And I'm sitting in the same place right now. I wish I could go back in time and change all these different things that have happened, but we don't exist in a vacuum. And as a board, it's our duty and responsibility not to make these decisions in a vacuum. We are specifically here to look at the full system of services that Ramsey County provides and to look in the long-term needs. We need to consider the full context, the statutory requirements that we have that exist around closing nursing homes, the market realities, whether we like it or not, that there is a for-profit care market. We need to look at the long history of this facility, why it was started, how we've changed, the things that we've done, the things we wish we could have done, and the extensive needs in our community that we can't keep investing in a place that we're not getting the return on that investment back, where there are other parties that could do the work just as well. And it's a challenging decision. And I take umbrage with news reports that we want to do this. I don't want to do this. This is not fun. This is tortuous. I hate hearing the pain that we're going to cause to specific people in the community. And I wish it didn't have to be this way. But this is why we're here, and not doing this, continuing to try to pour money into this is, if I had any belief that it would be successful in the long term, I would push for it. I have no confidence. And in fact, I think continuing to do that could put Ramsey County significantly at risk in terms of our ability to invest dollars in other high priority needs in order to maintain the credit rating that we have that allows us to borrow and do more in our community at lower rates. And if there were another option, I would say no. As Commissioner Carter said, it's my expectation and understanding that we are going to be walking with all the people impacted by this decision, our residents and employees, and we are not going to leave their side until they have transitioned to their next place, either in residence and employment. And I I just want to express my sincere apologies to everyone who is suffering because of this decision. It's not something we want to do, but looking at the bad options in front of us, it's the least bad option to close this. So that's why I'm supporting it. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Frethams. I'm not seeing other hands, so we are going to move to a vote. I just want to thank everyone for their thoughtful conversations, their engagement, for the community who has reached out, to our employees who have reached out. We have received both letters of support and opposition to this vote by employees and by community understanding this difficult task and a difficult decision. A lot has gone into this, and as we've heard today, it's not an easy decision, but leadership is often not easy when we have to make hard choices for our community and for our residents. And so I thank you all for your thoughtful consideration to this vote as we move now. So with that, we're going to move to a roll call vote.
Reinhardt,
No.
Carter,
Aye.
Fretham,
Aye.
McDonough,
Aye.
McGuire,
Aye.
Ortega,
Aye.
and Maris Castillo.
Aye. Thank you. We'll now move to our legislative update. Commissioner McGuire.
Commissioner McGuire, you're on mute.
Commissioner
I'm on
McGuire.
mute. I'm on mute. I get it. Thanks. Thank you, Madam Chair. I am pleased to give the legislative report and thank again Jennifer Rourke, Melissa Finnegan for all their work, for our legislative team, Commissioner Maris Castillo and myself, who continue to meet regularly to keep the legislative wheels rolling, and then all of you who have been really great at being testifying in committees already and just being present to our legislators in the important work that they're doing. Yesterday, the House held a Metro Parks Coalition meeting. Thank you, Commissioner Maris Castillo, for being at that, where we were able to express our support for Metro Parks in the region. On Thursday, there will be one in the Senate. I'll be happy to be at that. This is a bipartisan bill where all those who represent Metro Parks are supporting this. And so we're just hopeful that we will get further investment into our parks. We all know that parks are really important these days, especially, but as always, to our residents. Also, the Ramsey County Continuum of Care and Heading Home Ramsey bill was introduced last week by Representative Rena Moran and Senator Dave Senjum. This is a bipartisan bill as well in both the House and Senate. They're going to both receive their first hearing this week, which is great because it's in time for the deadline. And it's also Homelessness Day on the Hill this week, and that is also happening. That's all virtual, but it's going to be a great day where people will be expressing their concerns and their support for resources into people and those experiencing homelessness, and to those counties that are working on that. So that's the continuum of care. And also we had AMC Day on the Hill last week, and most of us were in meetings with our legislators. I think all of us were either virtually or in person, where we were expressing our support for our AMC agenda, but also and those that include our Ramsey County agenda, which includes housing and homelessness and for public safety. I know that a number of us were talking about the Justice Reinvestment Act, which actually invests more money into our community corrections and our community services and probation services. And we did put in a big plug for our county program aid, which I'm not sure the legislature is going to hear, but we absolutely need more of that, which keeps our property taxes down. And we'll continue to be working on that. So thanks to everyone for all your work. And if anyone else has any thing they'd like to add, because I know we're all very invested and very active in all of our legislative work. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner McGuire. We're going to now move to County Connections. County Manager O'Connor.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. Two quick updates. Yesterday, CFO Kutza sent out an update on the American Rescue Plan Act funding. There's a ton there. We've talked about it at the board meeting before. I think the upshot is out of the total federal allocation of $106.8 million coming direct to Ramsey County, 99.77 million falls in the category of specifically now authorized by the board. And that leaves a remaining 7 million. And that 7 million, you can see there are 3 things planned yet not authorized as a part of that section, but they're all things that have been discussed so far. And so what it continues to just say is when being asked about what are you doing with your ARPA funding, this is a good itemized list of what that looks like. We plan to put this online as well and make this information publicly available. We look forward to in the coming months adding the section not only of what's authorized, but how much has been spent, right? Because it takes both time to ramp up, but is also important to move. And I really appreciate the work of this board early on in the prioritization workshops, followed by the work of many staff across the organization. To be at a place where we can talk about what has been authorized and planned is unique among many governmental units. And I know you know that from the conversations that you've all been having both around the state and with peers around the country. Finally, some good news that we hit a significant benchmark this week with the Federal Transit Administration. We received permission to send in the request for the full funding grant agreement for the Gold Line. And this is a big deal and people were excited to send it off. That request was made at the end of February. We immediately received the piece back to say, let's go for it. So from here, we believe we are highly likely, though not certain, to receive the full federal funding. FTA has yet to reject a project that has reached this stage in a federal process. So we look forward to following in that tradition of seeing this go through. This is a big milestone. It's a good indicator for future success. And to all here on this meeting and also all those in the community who have been a part of the entire transit planning network for Ramsey County, but also specific to the Gold Line, it's an exciting day. And I'll leave any further comments on that to Commissioner Ortega as you run around, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, County Manager O'Connor. We'll now move to outside board and committee reports. And we'll start with Commissioner Ortega. You're on mute.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As I stated last week with the Gold Line that we were heading towards a full grant agreement on the Gold Line, and we're hoping to start construction by the end of this year and moving forward. And then hopefully we will have a similar scenario with the Purple Line moving into the following year. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner Ortega. We'll go back to the top of the alphabet and Commissioner Carter.
Thank you. I'll just mention briefly, certainly to have participated in the Association of Minnesota Counties and meeting with our legislators last week at the conference was a great opportunity for all of us, and to initiate discussions or to continue those discussions with our legislators. I also would just mention that this past couple of years has been a time during which we have greatly appreciated the ability to join each other in the outdoors in our parks. And I was able to attend a ceremony in Central Village Park, which is located in the Rondo area, which lit the park. We were delighted to be able to facilitate that engagement in evening hours by enhancing the park lighting as provided by projects of Trust for Public Lands and the City of St. Paul funding. And it was a great opportunity to hear from Irreducible Grace as they discussed the lighting, or as they shared poetry and spoken word regarding the lighting of our park. And as we engaged together, not in the dark, but in the light in the evening in Central Village Park. So thanks so much to all who had something to do with that. And I'll end my report.
Thank you, Commissioner Carter. Commissioner Fretham,
No update.
Commissioner McDonough.
No report, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner McGuire.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a few things here. Just want to mention again, I mentioned it last week that it was coming up, but the Tomassoni tribute, which was a tribute to Senator Tomassoni, who's unfortunately inflicted with ALS, and they had a huge fundraiser for ALS, and just in honor of David's work. He's still alive. He was actually at the event. Hundreds, I think about 800 people were at this event. Many of us were able to be there. The governor was there, as was former Governor Dayton, and it was just a great showing of support for the work that David Tomassoni has done, but also raised thousands of dollars. I mean, in the thousands of dollars for ALS. So good job to everyone for that. Also, the AMC Legislative Conference, which I've already mentioned, I was fortunate to be a part of leadership meetings where we met with the policy director for our majority leader in the Senate. We met with Minority Leader Franzen and Minority Leader Doubt, and just expressed all the interest that counties have in the work that we're doing and the resources that we need. So that was helpful. And then it was just a great time for all of our AMC colleagues throughout the state to come together and connect with each other. I just want to mention an upcoming event that's this Friday, which is the Ramsey County League of Local Government meeting, which is at 7:30. It's on Zoom. All of you are invited to that. We're going to be talking about the embedded social worker program, which we voted on last week, that Roseville now has that, Maplewood has that, and most of our cities are very interested in this. I believe St. Paul also has an embedded social worker program in with our public safety officials. And it's really the recognition that mental health is a priority for all of our systems, and it'll be a good meeting, and it's on Zoom. So with that, Madam Chair, I end my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner McGuire. Commissioner Reinhardt.
No update.
Thank you, Commissioner Reinhardt. We'll just move quickly. I want to acknowledge that today is International Women's Day, and take an opportunity to thank all the women that work here in Ramsey County and lead the county through our incredible work, but also lift up the women of the Ukraine. There's a lot going on, and so just take a moment to lift them in your prayers and your thoughts today as well. With that, we will move to our HRA meeting here in just a moment. We'll give staff a chance to switch over, and Commissioner McDonough will lead us in the HRA. We are adjourned.